Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Ridge's double wedding attends the ceremony with Thomas and Paris. As preparations for not one, but two weddings started to take shape, Forrester Creations was a hive of activity. At the same wedding where his son, Thomas, would marry Paris Buckingham, Ridge Forrester, the patriarch of the renowned fashion house, had startled everyone by announcing that he and his beloved Taylor Hayes would exchange vows. Although holding a double wedding was an unusual choice, Ridge had a straightforward justification. At a meeting at the Forrester home, he clarified, "This is about family. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate together after everything we've been through." The thought of sharing their special day with Ridge and Taylor was both exciting and intimidating for Thomas and Paris. The idea was enthusiastically accepted in Paris, which is known for its extravagant displays. As she talked about flower arrangements with Zend, who had kindly moved aside to encourage her happiness, she exclaimed, her eyes gleaming, "It'll be magical." But Thomas was not quite convinced. "Are you certain that this won't overpower us?" During a father-son discussion, he questioned Ridge. Ridge gave a solid reassurance. "Thomas, this is also your day. We will guarantee it." As the wedding preparations progressed, the Forrester estate became a bustling hub of activity. The site was overseen by Eric Forrester, who made sure that every element embodied the family's distinctive style. Ever the stickler for detail, Steffi planned the guest list and seating arrangements with military accuracy. Despite their complex connections with Ridge and Taylor, Hope Logan and Brooke Logan provided support, albeit with varying degrees of zeal. Brooke informed Hope, "This is about Ridge being happy," yet there was a hint of discomfort in her voice. Bright and clear dawned on the double wedding day, providing the ideal setting for the historic event. With flowing floral arrangements, sparkling lights, and a central aisle that seemed to go on forever, the expansive gardens of the Forrester estate had been turned into a romantic haven. Visitors started to appear, dressed as brilliantly as the surroundings. They included business titans, close relatives, and even some competitors who were excited to see two generations of Forresters join together. As she got ready for the wedding, Paris was a picture of beauty, her gown a modern masterpiece that wonderfully captured her lively personality. Zoe, her sister, who had come back from London for the event, was unable to contain her admiration. Her voice was full with emotion as she remarked, "Paris, you look gorgeous." In the meantime, Thomas, wearing a dapper tux, paced his suite uneasily. Steffi came by to give some words of support. She put a comforting hand on Thomas's shoulder and murmured, "You've got this, Thomas. Paris adores you, and an amazing journey begins today." Before the wedding, Taylor and Ridge had a private moment together in a different wing of the mansion. Eric himself created Taylor's classic gown, which exuded grace and elegance. Ridge was unable to look away from her. In a gentle, loving voice, he said, "You're beautiful." Taylor's heart was full as she grinned. "Ridge, this is all I've ever desired. To be with you while our family is around." The air was buzzing with excitement as the guests took their seats as the ceremony got underway. With their love story playing out like a fairy tale, Paris and Thomas were the first to go down the aisle. As Paris walked up to Thomas, who gazed at her as if she were the only person in the world, her grin brightened the garden. The officiant's remarks were sincere and perfectly encapsulated their shared journey. No one in the audience was unmoved when Thomas and Paris exchanged vows. It was Ridge's and Taylor's turn next. Their wedding ceremony served as evidence of their unwavering love and connection, which had withstood many hardships. Ridge spoke his vows in a strong voice, vowing to honor and adore Taylor for the rest of their lives. Taylor's reply was as poignant, expressing her steadfast love and dedication in her words. The garden burst into cheers as soon as they were announced as husband and wife, the sound resonating like a symphony of happiness. The ensuing reception was an unforgettable occasion. The lawn was covered with tables with gold and white linens, each with a unique centerpiece. The night air was filled with the laughter and conversation of the guests as they mixed and danced under the stars. While Steffi and Hope stunned everyone with a moving statement on the value of family, Eric played a heartfelt melody on the piano. With a forlorn look on her face, Brooke found herself seeing Ridge and Taylor from a distance amid the celebration. Hope saw and carefully walked up to her mother. "Are you all right?" she inquired. Brooke let out a sigh, feeling a complicated mixture of nostalgia for their past together and joy for Ridge. Finally, with a smile that stopped short of her eyes, she murmured, "I'm fine. This is his proper place." Alongside Taylor. As the evening went on, Thomas and Paris managed to elude the throng. They sat on a lonely bench and wondered at what had happened that day. "Is this unbelievable?" Paris inquired, her joyful eyes gleaming. With a compassionate gaze, Thomas took her hand in his. "It's flawless," he stated plainly. "Like you." Ridge and Taylor also discovered that they were thinking back on their trip. They stood at the garden's edge, surveying the landscape in front of them. Taylor whispered, "We did it," as she leaned into Ridge's hug. With a full heart, Ridge agreed, "We brought everyone together. Taylor, this is only the beginning. For our family, for us." Ridge and Taylor's double wedding with Thomas and Paris was a celebration of love, resiliency, and the unshakable ties of family, not just a union of lovers. The Forresters and their loved ones realized as the night came to an end that they had witnessed something genuinely unique, a day that would live on in the memories of future generations. Taylor fears Brooke will fight and win Ridge back and Remy. The epitome of professionalism and compassion, Taylor Hayes was a therapist who was reluctant to display her weaknesses. But even Taylor's calm exterior started to crumble with Brooke Logan's constant pressure on Ridge Forrester. Passion, treachery, and the kind of love that defied reason were all part of Brooke and Ridge's illustrious past. Even though Taylor and Ridge had a strong bond, she couldn't get rid of the worry that Brooke's allure might entice him away once more. Following the consequences from Brooke's most recent scandal, Ridge's developing closeness to Brooke served as the impetus for Taylor's mounting anxiety. Ridge had always been Brooke's steadfast supporter, even in their difficult past, and this time was no exception. From the sidelines, Taylor observed as Ridge's protective nature took over, his worry for Brooke taking precedence over all other considerations. During a quiet moment in her office, Taylor tried to comfort herself by telling herself, "He's just being supportive." But she knew better in her heart. The link between Ridge and Brooke was both unbreakable and enraged. The entrance of Remy, a dynamic and aspirational designer who had just joined Forrester Creations, further complicated things. Although there was no denying Remy's brilliance, his presence created a tension that reverberated throughout the Forrester family's already tense relationships. He was admired and hated in equal measure because of his caustic tongue and propensity to push limits. Ever observant, Taylor was unable to ignore Remy's subtle jabs at Brooke or the way his eyes lingered on Ridge during meetings. He had a fire inside of him that seemed ready to burst into a hurricane. The disagreement between Remy and Will, a dependable and seasoned member of the Forrester team, quickly escalated. Will had been devoted to the Forrester legacy during his years with the company. He saw Remy's bravado as a danger to the family as well as the stability of the business. At a fortuitous meeting in the Forrester lounge, Will told Taylor, "He's trouble. Believe me when I say that he will cause more drama than we have ever witnessed." Taylor was unable to ignore Will's worries, particularly in light of the developing hostility between him and Remy. Once limited to professional disputes, their clashes started to become more personal. Will charged Remy of ignoring the company's principles, while Remy accused Will of adhering to antiquated customs. Everyone at Forrester Creations took notice of their altercations, which turned into a spectacle. However, Taylor's main concern was that their conflict appeared to reflect the greater conflict between Brooke and herself over Ridge. Ever the strategist, Brooke had started to take advantage of the internal turmoil in the organization. By resolving disputes and providing solutions that demonstrated her leadership abilities, she established herself as the voice of reason. Taylor couldn't help but notice, and Ridge couldn't help but be impressed. Taylor told her confidant and friend Steffi, "She's playing the long game." Steffi, who is passionately protective of her mother, promised to support Taylor because she knows exactly how to win him over. She proclaimed, her eyes burning with resolve, "We won't let her win." The anxiousness peaked as the days stretched into weeks. The ideal setting for the play was a crucial occasion, a charity banquet organized by Forrester Creations. With the elite of the fashion industry there, the evening was a spectacular occasion. Despite the tempest building inside her, Taylor came in a gorgeous emerald gown with her head held high. When Taylor walked into the room, Brooke was already at Ridge's side, looking stunning in a silver dress. Taylor's confidence was stabbed by the sight, but she chose not to show it. When Remy and Will got into a furious quarrel on the balcony, the event took an unexpected turn. Accusations were made, voices were raised, and the altercation became physical before anybody could stop it. With a mask of rage on his face, Remy pushed Will against the railing. "You believe you can scare me?" he spat. "You're just a relic." Will was rattled, but he didn't back down. In response, he said, "And you're a fool who doesn't understand what it means to be part of this family." Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor were among the crowd drawn in by the ruckus. Ridge intervened right away, separating the two men with a strong presence that put an end to the commotion. "That's sufficient," he stated in a stern yet hushed voice. With their animosity still unresolved, Remy and Will scowled at one another before reluctantly moving away, saying, "This isn't the place for this kind of behavior." As the evening wore on, Ridge went to see Taylor, who had a tired but earnest look on his face. With a tone full of remorse, he said, "I'm sorry you had to see that." Seeing an opening, Taylor was careful with her wording. "Ridge, it's not just tonight. We need to assess our current situation because a lot is going on here." She looked into his eyes for any traces of their previous love. Brooke showed up before Ridge could reply, her timing flawless as always. She touched his arm lightly and murmured, "Ridge, the press is asking for us." Taylor's heart sank as the moment was destroyed. Taylor was left alone as Ridge and Brooke left, struggling with the agonizing thought that her fears would soon come true. Following the gala, the battle lines were more distinct than before. Taylor made the decision to stand up for Ridge by reminding him of their past, intense and enduring love, rather than by deceit or plotting. She was aware that the path ahead would be tough, full with obstacles and heartbreak. However, Taylor was incredibly resilient. She silently vowed to stick with the man she loved despite the intense competition and high stakes as she observed Brooke and Ridge from a distance. What's the matter with Brooke and Taylor? Why would either of them want Ridge back, really? Regardless of whether you're on #TeamTridge or #TeamBridge, this never-ending plotline makes Taylor and Brooke appear pitiful at best and seriously in need of assistance at worst. Not for nothing, but I expected Steffi to give poor old Dad the kind of scolding she typically saves for one of the Logans when Ridge actually told her that Taylor was his safety net. I wanted her to respond, "Pardon me, but my mom is not here to be your safety net. She deserves better, and honestly, Thomas and I do too, Dad." Heck, Brooke does, if I'm telling the truth. Even though I'll never say that out loud in front of her, it's true. You are a first-class, grade-A jerk who should spend the rest of his life by himself, sitting in a corner and reflecting on how his libido-driven, self-centered behavior has utterly devastated two women and their children. Hope was releasing truth bombs all over the place for a little moment. She started by reminding her mother that, in regards to Ridge running into Taylor's arms, this isn't the first time it's happened. She didn't go into specifics, but considering how infrequently characters on this show are allowed to make reference to the repeat plots they're enmeshed in, my mouth almost dropped. She went on to essentially imply that Ridge and her mother might not be meant to be together. "Ma, you keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it does," she almost remarked. Brooke wasn't paying attention. Because she was promising to win Ridge back by Christmas of next year 2 minutes later. You just caught him canoodling with your fiercest opponent, lady. Are you also attempting to diagnose someone with shattered heart syndrome? In the meantime, the utterly absurd situation involving Brooke's alleged betrayal of Ridge was developing. Maybe she should send a fast SMS instead of sitting around worrying. "Just so you know, darling, I took over the business in order to return it to you. Let's have a conversation." How difficult would that be, really? Then there's Zend, who knows exactly what Brooke has planned. Indeed, he made a vow to keep it a secret, but how could he not see how things are unfolding and ask Brooke, "Is there a reason you're not telling him?" Because if you told him or let me handle it, this entire situation would be cleared up. Call me crazy, but I don't believe it's unreasonable to expect characters on a program that is entirely discussion-based to actually talk. The key question is whether Ridge would stop huffing and puffing long enough to hear what Brooke has to say. This seems to be exactly what will happen next week. Does Ridge withhold Brooke's CEO truth from Steffi's intel? Steffi Forrester, who inherited both her father's perseverance and her mother's grace, was no stranger to the intricate web of power struggles and secrets that characterized life at Forrester Creations. Having grown up watching the turbulent relationship between her parents, Ridge and Taylor, and the constant presence of Brooke Logan, Steffi had been involved in her fair share of scandals and schemes, but this time the stakes were higher than ever before when she discovered a piece of information that could topple everything: Brooke Logan's role in a covert scheme to gain the CEO position at Forrester Creations. Steffi had learned the information in a late-night meeting with a confidential informant, a devoted employee of Forrester Creations who had become suspicious of Brooke's covert activities. The informant claimed that Brooke had been subtly using her connections and influencing board members to establish herself as a contender for the company's top position, a daring move that Brooke had kept well under wraps, fully aware that the consequences could be disastrous.